Hi, and welcome to the She Geeks Out podcast, where we geek out about workplace inclusion and talk with brilliant humans doing great work, making the world a better and brighter place. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Felicia. So, you know what? She's so nice. We had to do it twice. And we're rhymers. In this episode, we are reconnecting with Cindy Aaker, who is an intuitive guide and founder of Soul Speak. She helps people connect with angels. Yes, really. If you did not listen to her first episode with us, you need to stop right here, go back, listen to that first, and then come back, because we barely scratched the surface of her work the first time around. So this time we're just getting deeper into it. So don't miss out. Go listen, then come back here if you haven't already, and it's all linked in the show notes. But before we get to angels and all that good stuff, let's get into it.
We'll get into you, my business partner, Angel.
Yes. Thank
and
you.
your experience.
My angel as well.
Oh, Angel.
Angel.
We're co-angels. That's going to be our new.
I love it. Add that to the title list.
Exactly. LinkedIn update forthcoming. Well, so you, my friend, went to Startup Boston this week. So we're recording this Friday, September 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And so you attended Startup Boston. You were on a panel. And I thought that our lovely listeners might enjoy hearing a little bit about some of the magic that happened on this panel.
Yeah, happy to share. And I'm just pulling up the pictures because it's got a long title. So I want to make sure I remember it correctly, because as I say to everybody in all aspects of my life, I've had COVID twice and my brain is not the same as it used to be. But I was very honored to be invited to be a panelist on a panel for Startup Week Boston. And the title was AI and People Ops: How Startups Can Harness AI to Build and Support Sustainable Teams. And I was joined by Ryan Mahoney, who was our moderator. He's the CEO at First Who, Jen Paxson, who's the VP of People and Talent at a company called Roofer, and Jason Lavender, who's the co-founder and CEO rather at a company called Electives, which also does trainings. Yeah, so basically, we got into it, and what I thought was interesting from my own perspective is obviously, we do our consulting work and we do a lot of stuff around workplace inclusion, and when they first asked me to be on the panel, I was like, but I don't really work directly in people ops, so am I the right person for this? But it's just like everything else that we talk about and in life, like it's all connected. Surprise.
So connected. So connected.
And I think that Startup Week Boston, really, a lot of the other sessions also focused on AI, which was super interesting. And obviously, it's really top of mind for everybody in all aspects. And what I kind of viewed my contribution to this panel was sort of discussing the pros and the cons, especially from like the ethical considerations of AI. And we actually, all three of us on the panel got into that, but that was really how I've kind of viewed my contribution, because we've had our AI webinar that we did a few months ago, which is available, I believe, through our SGO Learning or...
Oh, it's available. I think it's even available perhaps on YouTube.
Yeah, so that's out there if anyone wants to kind of take a look at that. And a lot of what we covered there, I re-brought up during this panel. But basically, as I was telling you before, I actually was learning a lot myself during the panel. So I was definitely that person taking notes as we're talking. But I think the major takeaway is that people are using AI. Like, companies are using it. People who are in people ops, who are in leadership positions, who are in management positions, who are in HR, we're all using it. And part of what is happening is, and we talked about this a lot, was that it's coming down to individual choices that we make. So as an organization, and especially if you're somebody who has power and decision-making power in an organization, like, we are getting to, in real time, make choices about, do we use AI? How are we using it? Are we concerned about it or not? What does that look like for our people? And one of the interesting threads that started to come out was, that people are using it a lot. Like, folks are using it for performance reviews, for using it as mentors, both for employees and for themselves, which I thought was a really interesting take as well. And then people are using it to determine whether an employee is going to be a flight risk, or what the retention might look like for certain people or certain groups of employees. So, that ties into things like pulse surveys and feedback and employee sentiments. And then we talked a lot as well about, is AI going to replace people completely?
Right.
And the sort of, I think, consensus was that yes, it is going to definitely impact, and it already has impacted a lot,
Yeah.
jobs. And a lot of the conversations that people in these HR and people ops roles are having with their CEOs and with their boards is the CEOs and boards saying, hey, can AI do this? Can AI be this person? Or can AI replace this job role? And it's like a negotiation because in some cases it's like, yeah, totally AI can replace this role or this person. But in a lot of cases, it's about sort of not necessarily pushing back, but adjusting and thinking about, okay, it's not going to be a complete replacement, but how can we utilize AI in these roles to maximize performance or to be more effective? And so one of the things that we talked a lot about was AI in hiring. And so, there in the questions in the panel from the group that was attending, a lot of that touched on that theme as well, which was, is it okay if you're a candidate and you use AI to craft your job application? What do you think, actually, before I tell you kind of what we talked about? What do you think, Rachel? Like
I think
on the market.
yeah, I mean, I think look, I think it's okay. Look, if we're expected to use it, right, in our work, yeah, I think it does make sense. Not from an environmental standpoint, but yes.
Yeah. I threw that in there, best believe.
Yeah. Like that I mean, that's the biggest issue that I have with AI, and I am an
Yeah,
avid user of it, and I do think about like, the ethical piece of it from that perspective, but yeah, I think it's fine. It's just really messy because it's like it feels like, how is it working? I'm actually curious about how effective it is on both for people who are recruiting and for people who are job seeking. How effective is it? Because it just seems like, at least in my LinkedIn feed, it's just a hot mess right now. I mean, most of the people are
it is.
unable to get
Yeah.
a job.
It is such a hot mess when it comes to hiring overall for a lot of reasons, a lot of which we've touched on in the past. But yeah, I mean, there's so kind of where we landed with our discussion of this is an evolving situation, first of all, and there's no like rules or regulations at this point. So every company is doing it differently. But what a lot of us kind of discussed was the fact that if you are expecting and want your employees to be using AI in their jobs, then why wouldn't you want them to use AI in their job applications?
Right.
Obviously, there's always the flip side of it, which is, well, what if someone's using AI to like copy and pasting or like giving you what you want to hear and they don't actually have a skill set? They can use AI as a skill, but they don't have the other skills that are needed. And it's like, yes, of course, that is like the other side of it. And that's a consideration. But there was a lot of discussion around like transparency in terms of what is expected or how the company views usage of AI. And we talked a lot about this idea of AI as a tool. And it's definitely like it's a bit of a runaway train at this point, but it is a tool. And my contribution is like as a tool, it's built by humans. Humans have biases, humans are not perfect. And so this tool is not perfect either, but there are a lot of benefits to it. But we have to remember that we can't take AI as gospel. AI doesn't always give us what we want to hear. It gives us what we want to hear. It doesn't always give us the truth. It's not a search engine. But a lot of companies, it sounds like, are starting to put AI statements in their job application or their job descriptions, rather. So I haven't looked up specifically, but one company that was mentioned as sort of like a one to follow was Help Scout. So they are starting to put AI statements in their job descriptions. And so I think that's a really interesting way of approaching it. And I like that a lot because it gives the candidates permission to not only use it, but also to think about how are they using it and how do they want to kind of build that into their candidacy. And on the flip side, my panelist Jason mentioned this, like they had an open role they posted recently, and within 4 days, I think he said they got 1,600 applications.
Oof.
You and I had been there before too, so we
We
know
have.
we know what that's like. And so he was talking about how they were using AI to help narrow down. And again, there's considerations with that, right? Because this is where there is research that shows that when you're using AI in these kinds of hiring, narrowing down situations, that it tends to sometimes favor men over women, younger people over older people. There is an active lawsuit against Workday right now, which is, I think, specifically around age, but other aspects as well around how their AI was used to narrow down and kind of treat candidates. There's also some really interesting studies, and I'm looking out to my notes here because I took some notes in advance, but there's some interesting studies that are just coming out. One's out of Harvard, which indicates that women overall are slower to adopt AI tools
Mhm.
at essentially like a 25% lower rate than their male candidate counterparts or male employee counterparts, rather. And in large part, it's because of ethical concerns.
Yep, I know.
We
We
have,
our
yeah,
damn ladies,
I know,
we're the
right? It's like,
worst
oh,
with our ethical
we're so
considerations.
we don't want to burn the world down. And so that's one thing. Another really interesting study, and this was just posted in HBR, I want to say like maybe a few weeks ago, and it was researchers from a couple different universities, but basically the takeaway from this study was that when reviewers who were looking at code that was being written by engineers, when they believed that the engineer had used AI to write their code, they rated the competence level of that engineer lower, even
Interesting.
when they didn't actually use AI. It was just if the reviewers believed that they had used AI.
Mm.
And surprise, surprise, this was worse when it came to women and older workers.
What?
Can you believe?
Can't believe it.
So, yeah, I mean, I could keep going and going. There's a lot that we discussed and a lot to cover, but it was really informative. And I think both for me as someone who is putting my viewpoint out there from what
Uh,
you and I have talked about, as well as I think for the people who are attending, because it's an evolving field and there's no
yeah.
like best practice right now. We're
No, it's yeah, thank you for sharing. I think that was really helpful and informative, and we've certainly had plenty of conversation around AI, and I will say that I know people in my life who definitely are like FAI, like not interested in using it, like it's the
same.
devil, like and my concern is that if there are enough people that are sort of the mindset that are maybe a little bit more progressive or more empathetic, maybe that have a lot of hesitation using it, my fear is that the people then who are primarily using it are going to turn it into a tool that will be used for evil and not
Evil.
good. And I think that,
Yeah.
so I do, even though I struggle with the climate change aspect of it, the
Mm.
energy resources aspect of it, I do use it because I do my best. I'm like, I'm in there as a lady who's as being as empathetic as possible up in this space.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we agree because we agree on pretty much everything, but my take, and this is what I shared at the panel yesterday, was that, like it or not, AI is here.
Yeah.
Like, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. AI is
Yeah.
here and it's here to stay. So, from my perspective, I agree with you completely. I do not like the environmental aspects of it. I wrestle with that a lot. The IP being stolen, like all
Yeah.
the things. Check out the
Yeah.
webinar if you want to learn more about that
Yeah.
and what my thoughts are. But I struggle with a lot of it. But I also think that it behooves us to make sure that we understand it and then we understand how to use it and we understand what the possibilities and the consequences are. Because if we don't, if we just sort of lean into being Luddites when it comes to this, I think we're just doing ourselves a disservice, both individually and from the standpoint of our roles. And obviously, you and I are in this company, Inclusion Geeks Together. Other people are like VPs of people ops or whatever. But we have to be aware of it. It's like kind of the shift between like going from typewriters to computers. Like, if you're not able to make that shift, you're going to be left behind. And that's not a good thing necessarily.
I think that's very well said. And I also think that somehow weirdly it ties into our conversation with Cindy because I
I was
feel
gonna
like
say, like, the battle between good and evil, let's bring angels into the mix.
I know. Well, there's that. And just, I think the reason why we were so excited to talk with Cindy is because we have a blast, like, sort of talking about what is happening in the world right now. Like, we are recording this at the end of a
Oh,
wild,
wild.
wild week. And God only knows when this comes out, what else will have happened. But there's just so much happening. And then, like, it's like these polycrises, right? Like, it's just like there's all of this stuff that's happening. There is the birth of AI, there is climate change, there is just all of this stuff is happening at the same time. And it is overwhelming. I said that just to make Felicia laugh, so I apologize. I hope it doesn't
Well,
sound
you
absolutely awful
succeeded.
in someone's ears. I apologize.
What is happening?
What is happening? So, yeah, so that's why we were so excited to talk with Cindy, and she comes from a place of a lot of hope and excitement, and it's infectious, and I think we feel like let's just go. Let's just
Yeah.
do it. We're in
Because
it.
honestly, like, what even is 2025? And you know what? Like, I'm here for it. And again, if you haven't listened to the first part, please do that first,
Yeah.
then come back because it's just a continuation of that conversation. We kind of just like jump right back into where we were at the end of last time with our conversation with Cindy. Yeah, like, again, I'm here for it all. Bring on the aliens and bring on the angels, and maybe they're the same or the octopi. I don't know. But
I
like,
don't know.
let's, I'm here for it. Let's just bring it in. So I don't know. Take me away. Um,
Thank you for that, Felicia. Let's
yes.
bring on Cindy.
Great. Welcome, Cindy. We're back. Oh my gosh. So excited for part two.
Me
Ugh,
too.
it's happening. We were just saying how we only have like 14 questions that we didn't get to from the last time we had the wonderful, brilliant, kind, empathetic Cindy on with us. So let's do this. Felicia, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll just start by saying, Cindy, since your episode with us went live, I don't even know when it went live, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, what is time? I feel like just so many people have been talking to me about the episode, and it was really resonating with a lot of folks. So I'm excited that we get this chance to follow up with you because, like Rachel said, oh my gosh, we have so many questions we did not even touch or sniff. So, first question, just to kind of get us back into the groove and kick this great conversation off again. So, we've all had conversations before. Obviously, we had our podcast episode. And for any listeners who didn't listen to that one, you should definitely pause here, go listen to that first, then come on back. But you have said in the past, and maybe even pretty recently, that the world is in upheaval because it needs to be in upheaval, which is such an interesting way of thinking and talking about this wild world that we're living in right now. So, what are you sensing? Like, what is the upheaval for? What is it clearing the way for? Why are we needing to be in this upheaval right now?
Well, there has been a lot of talk for a very long time about us moving into the age of Aquarius, right? I'm sure everybody's heard that term at
Here
some time.
for it. I'm an Aquarian, so I'm like, it's my time.
There
Well,
you
I
go.
I will
Exactly.
say, like, I think we should talk a little bit about it because I think that a lot of us only know about it from the musical.
100%.
From
That
hair.
will be playing in my head right now. Dun, 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 dun,
Totally.
dun. We don't have money to play any actual song clips, so that's all you
Well,
get.
I am not an astrologist, so I don't know all the ins and outs of the astrology, but basically, we are leaving behind the Pisces era and we're moving into a higher vibration. So it's the way all the stars and everything are all lined up, and it's just bringing in a higher vibration, is kind of just the layman's way of putting it. And as humans, we are also needing to adjust to this higher vibration. So, as the earth, everything needs to adjust. And nothing really changes if everything's just okay. So, in order for things to actually change, it's got to get kind of yucky.
Well, good news. It's yucky.
We're in the muck, so
We're in the muck. And
halfway
so
there.
right? So nothing changes unless it's changed. And nobody likes to do change. We are creatures of habit. We love to be familiar. We love to be comfortable. We don't like when things are not known. We don't like to be confused or uncertain of what we're supposed to be doing. And this energy is causing that. And so there's this gigantic fight now to hold on to what we've had for so long when the rest of energy and matter is moving up in octave. So you can kind of almost think of it as like playing a song on a piano in a certain octave. We've been playing in this octave for a few thousand years now. And now this octave, we're moving up into the next one. So we're almost transcribing everything that we've been doing into a higher measure. But there's a lot of stuff that doesn't really fit in that higher measure. And so that stuff is starting to fall away. And the fighting to keep it in the lower measure is this upheaval. It's this desire to keep things the way it is, to not kind of ride the wave, but to fight against the wave is what's kind of going on. It's like we're fighting upstream, or not all of us, but many of us are fighting upstream because things are just, they're crazy right now. It's everything. Every system that we have been living by seems to be changing, and it's by design. And in order for us to move up into this next octave where there is going to be more connection, more love, more healing, we have to see all the garbage that we've been holding on to so that we can finally just let it go. And so it's all coming up now. It's all
Yeah.
coming up so that we can see it, we shine a light on it, and then we let it go. So all these things that have been buried for so long that we thought maybe were gone, uh-uh. Hello, still here, because we
Yeah.
never ever released it. We just kind of hid it. And now it's just coming up and it's pretty ugly to look at.
Yeah, it is really interesting when you think about it, because certainly with the current regime that we are living under, it is just so interesting to think that the alternative could have been a Black woman as president. And to your point, I mean, as much as I think it's safe to say that all of us would have loved to have seen that happen, I guess maybe in some ways it would have been like, oh, wow, are we in like a post-feminist, sort of like the same conversation we were having when Obama became president. It was like, oh, there's no more racism in the country. Hooray. It's like, oh no, that's actually not true. So it's like, I just wish it could be a little bit less awful, but that's just my wish. But and relatedly, I'm curious, like when we think about fear, I think there's a lot of fear that's happening right now collectively. And I think with your work with the angels, I would just love to know how they think about moving through this time, knowing that we are experiencing fear. I was thinking about this the other day about like seeing the fear, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Kind of that was that Susan Powder, I think, used to
Oh my
say.
gosh, that was my first like self-help book that I loved it. It was so helpful.
So great. By the way, she totally made like a little comeback courtesy of like Jamie Lee Curtis. Side note, that's another.
I'm going to have to explore that.
Yeah, it's super interesting. But yeah, just sort of curious to hear what the higher powers have to say about the matter.
Well, so fear, the only action fear has is to create more fear. That is the only action. It's not even a real thing. We create it in our minds. It doesn't actually exist, and it brings about a very low vibration. So all the fear that everybody's feeling is stemming from not knowing what is going to happen, right? And not trusting and going inward to kind of regroup. It's actually the fear is actually because we're not living in the moment. That's what it kind of comes down to. Is everybody's thinking about the past and the future, and nobody's living in the moment. And if we can stop and actually live in the actual moment that we are in and take stock of what's going on in our own selves, in our own bodies, because we can't do it for everybody else. And everybody's having their own experience, and everybody signed on. And I know that's going to be controversial, but everybody signed on for their own experience for a certain reason, for the growth of their soul and to help other souls grow as well. But if we can just take stock of what's going on. So this is something like those 3:00 in the morning fears that come in and wake you up and twirl around in your head and go and go. And you're like, and if you keep watching all the news and keep watching all this, like it's just, the propaganda is to instill fear in people, because fear lowers your vibration, which then makes you unable to connect to that true self that's in there, which is going to bring a lot of calmness to you. Because when you can take stock and you can, like, okay, I have all my fingers, I have all my limbs. Yeah, I have a bit of a headache today, but overall, I'm okay. And my kids are okay. And my mom is okay. And we're okay. If you can just kind of take that moment and be like, we're actually okay right now, and live in just the moment, it will help you to kind of ground out of the fear. But fear, again, if everything is just okay, nothing changes, right? Fear is a catalyst. It's a huge catalyst. And it's a part of our lives. It doesn't need to be a part of our lives. And we're actually going to move into, once we're like really in the golden age, in the age of Aquarius, fear won't even have a place to land. It's not even going to exist. It won't even, That's the amazing thing, is it's because we are in this low vibration right now that fear exists. As we lift and we rise, it's not even going to have, it's like tuning in. We're living on station 107.3 and fear is 92.1. You can't experience it at the same time. And that's where we're going. But again, we have to let it all go. We have to release it all. And fear is just almost just a catalyst to do that in this moment. It's also a catalyst for dark work, for control. It's a huge thing that, I mean, everything is fear-based. Fear-based everything. Do this or you're going to get cancer. Do this or your kids are going to fail. Everything is, or something bad is going to happen. Everything is fear-based and it controls us. And the powers that be right now, they like that because it keeps people in a box and it keeps people from expanding themselves. And that's kind of what it is. But going inward, that's the way. That's always the way to kind of just breathe, follow the breath work, grounding, just breathing, and really just taking stock in the moment that we're in and not letting past things, past like historical data, what has been going on forever. Because it's been going on this long, it has to continue this way. Not true. Every single morning we wake up is a brand new opportunity. We do not have to do the same thing over and over. The affect of prior choice, we use that all the time to decide what we're going to do in the present. Got to stop doing that. Be like, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try something different. And then just your history in general, right? Your own personal history of your experiences. Just trying to be like, it doesn't need to repeat. Where attention goes, energy flows. And if we're concentrating constantly on the past, that's what we're going to just experience in our present. And also, if we are imagining a future, so it works in the other way as well. If we're imagining a future in a certain way, we're limiting all the other potentials, right? If we
Love
expect it
that.
to be.
Yeah, I love that thought, Cindy, because it's so interesting, right? Like, if we're driven by fear, how can we truly expansively think about the possibilities that are open to us if we're already limiting ourselves? And as you were talking, what kind of was popping into my head was this idea that fear has been wielded as a tool to keep us from accessing those possibilities. But I kind of want to go back to one thing which you touched on a bit in a couple different ways, which I had been thinking about actually since our last conversation, and we didn't really get a chance to talk too much about it, I don't think. But Rachel brought up our politics and like where we're at right now. And I definitely probably am too online. And I follow a lot of stuff and a lot of people online. But what I thought was so interesting after the elections last year was that I started seeing, and I experienced this myself, a lot of mostly women, although not exclusively women, but a lot of women, just to use that as a general catch-all group, were reporting and sharing experiences of having woken up at 3 a.m. the night or the morning of, however you want to kind of slice and dice it, of the election, and having this sense of dread or this fear that kind of like woke them up. And there's been a ton of discourse around this online, mostly around like, what is this collective thing that it seems like a lot of us have tapped into? And I'm curious what your thoughts are, like, or even for both of you, like, did either of you wake up at 3 a.m. with this sense of like dread? Because I know I 100% did, and didn't even look at my phone because I was like, I felt this feeling before, and it was back in 2016. And so I just knew without even having to like wake up the next morning and actually learn the news. And I'm wondering if like that kind of feeling or collectiveness is more than just fear for fear's sake, but almost like a warning signal, right? Like we're using fear, or how can we use fear as a way to get out of being subjugated, but more of a way to arm ourselves with knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I don't think that fear can ever be an asset. So to arm ourselves with fear is doing ourselves a detriment. So with regards to that moment, I knew that Kamala wasn't going to win. There had been a lot of strangeness So I get up every morning at 5:30 and I go immediately outside and I ground in my backyard, bare feet on the grass, and I have a gratitude practice every morning and every evening before bed. And that morning was really intense because I went outside and I hadn't looked either. I think actually my husband in the middle of the night looked, but I mean, we kind of already knew anyways. Aside from my practice, I'm not even going to go into what happened, but there were some lights in the sky. I'll just leave it at that. There was
No,
some light.
you have to expand on
Yeah, I was
it,
like,
please.
wait, sorry, are we bringing aliens into the discussion? Because here for it.
Because yes, we need to talk about this.
Okay, so I went outside and I immediately, as when I walked outside, I look at the stars and there was so much activity in the sky. Like they weren't satellites because they were flashes, really bright flashes, streaking, leaving a streak behind. I saw probably like a strobe light type of thing in two different spots in the sky, just really bright flashes. And then I saw like a double, it almost looked like a double, it's so weird, a double kind of star, but it was closer. You could tell that it was in our atmosphere, but they looked like two stars side by side, one bigger than the other, just slowly moving across in like a random trail. So I knew as soon as I walked out that this was something massive absolutely happened. And there was a huge shift that happened on the earth and with the earth. Like just there was an energetic change. It was almost like a switch being flipped with regards to the energy on the earth. And it has everything to do with that election and everything to do with the fear, because everybody felt that fear. Everybody globally was like, holy crap, what did we do? What has happened? What is going on? And so that I think is something that everybody felt because it was part of our consciousness as humanity. It was that big of a deal.
And maybe that's like not fear then, but it was more like an acknowledgement of this shift.
The fear
I was
was
thinking about change, right? And like people are scared of change, but
the
it's not.
fear was the reaction
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
moment. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. The
And
fear
then
was the reaction.
is this where we bring in, are we living in a different timeline? Like, do we jump
Oh,
timeline?
timelines switch constantly. Like we're always, depending on what our energy, our own personal energy is at, we are jumping timelines all the time. All the time. Just because if we are in a high vibration, we're going to be in the timeline generally that is for our highest good. If we're really low, you're inviting in a lot of low stuff, you're going to stay in that low timeline. So timelines, it's not like everybody jumps at once. We're constantly moving in different areas. Like
Okay.
every single decision we make creates a new timeline.
Okay, I have questions. So, because we've talked about this before about like if you're in your higher vibration, you are sort of like manifesting you are in a timeline that is like less ugh. And I think about you and these conversations every time I look at the news. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like lowering my vibrations and I'm like in this space now and I don't want to be in this space, but I'm in this other space. So it's like, oh, I don't look at the news. So that's cool. So now I'm in this. Am I like, but I'm still in the same timeline. Cause right?
You're
Like,
not going to know that you've jumped.
yeah, like you don't, it's not like like all of a sudden, like Kamala Harris is president.
No, no, those kind of massive jumps, that's Marvel stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Cause it literally I go to Loki at this point.
What
I'm
about like
like,
the Mandela effects? Like, for example, I really geek out.
That's the subtlety of a time
Right?
shift
Like the
is the
fruit of the
Mandela.
loom with the cornucopia, where I would like go to my grave on that. Like
Of
that.
course.
Bernstein Bears.
I will also go to my grave for that.
Yes, and
Like,
I mean there's so many. It was Luke, I am your father. It wasn't no, I am your father. It
yes.
was
And so that's why I find, and then also like the people who thought, because I also believe this at one point that Nelson Mandela died in jail. And I was like, but he's not dead. Like, what is happening? So I feel like those are clues, though, right? Or are we just getting all into conspiracy?
no. That is exactly the
Certainly.
Mandela effect is that is the result of a timeline shift. Yes. Absolutely. That's how that
Well,
works.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying, and maybe Rachel, I think we're on the same page here. It's like, universe, like we're okay if it's more Marvel-esque, because like if I could wake up tomorrow and have someone else be president,
But
like I
then nothing's
totally
going to
agree with that.
change. It's just going to delay what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like, so we are stuck in this way of being that 90% of the world, it doesn't work for them. Like, it doesn't work for them. You've got the haves and the have nots. You've got people starving and people living in gluttony. Like, the equality is not there. We can't, that's not sustainable.
Yep.
It's just not sustainable. And so the
Okay,
shift
fair
has to
enough.
happen in order for humanity to even continue to exist, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And so what happened needed to happen because it's bringing up again all the garbage that we thought was buried or gone or didn't exist so that we can actually, yes, say we don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
And this isn't working anymore. And another astrological thing is the United States is going to have, its 250th birthday, right?
Woo!
Yeah, but the interesting thing is on there's this astrologer that did the astrology chart for the United States because it has a birthday and so they could do it. And what is so interesting is the last time that we had our Declaration of Independence, when we had the war that gave us our independence, Pluto had just started its circle around the Earth and it's getting right back there again. It's our furthest planet it has the exact same amount of years that it takes to make a full revolution around the sun is the same age as the United States.
And it's a planet.
This
And we
is
will
I know, I
we
was about
will
to
go
say,
to our grave.
we're all
That too.
cool. Pluto's a planet still, right?
Yeah. 100%.
yes,
I mean,
we're
always in
calling
my
it a
heart.
planet. It's a planet. But so there again,
Yeah.
and what is happening now is we're getting kind of back into that energy of all over again, this independence, like what the government was doing, like the British government was doing back then, it seems is now happening again. Like we're in this cycle of now we have to do our independence again. And so there's a lot to astrology and there's a lot to all of the ways that the stars and everything align that funnels the energy in a certain way that humanity receives it and realizes that change is inevitable and we have to do it. It has to happen. And so this is happening again. Like it's happening again.
Yeah, and this is probably a really good point to sort of ask because, like, look, our normal podcast listeners are probably like, "What is even happening with inclusion geeks right now? Like, are they having a mental breakdown?" And the
No,
answer
we're
is,
getting into a higher vibration,
"Yeah, yeah."
like literally.
Well, I'm curious because obviously I know that you happen to even be married to a skeptic. Like, how do you have these conversations with people who are skeptical? And I will share with you, like, I also, when we first met, I was like, girl. And then now I'm like, yeah, I'm into it. How do you get people to start to really accept that this is a reality?
Well, there are definitely people that are open to it and people that aren't. And so I'm going to be attracted to the people that are, and they are going to be attracted to me. So generally, it's all about vibration. You can feel the vibe. And there are some people that I'm like, I'm not even going to try because it's throwing what is it, casting pearl before swine? Isn't that biblical
Yeah.
phase where they're just not going to hear me at all? Like they're not going to hear me in the slightest way. And then there are other people that they're noticing their own personal life is like, what is going on? I don't know why things are so weird. And they're kind of searching for an answer. They're searching for a reason. And when I start talking, it starts hitting them. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. And it starts to kind of make sense just because that's the energy that is being supported, also, right? So we have this container that we're supported, the energy that we're supported in by all of our light beings, by the earth herself, that is supporting this vibration being received. And so, again, the more we fight it, the harder our lives are. And it's getting to be even more and more obvious to people that if we're not heart-centered and we're not focusing on things that like really are important to us and in our heart and bring us joy, they're not paying dividends like they used to. Like this whole mentality that the boomer generation had of work hard, save your money, this and that, it doesn't work anymore. It's not about working hard at all. It's about being truthful and being in your heart center with your work. And that's what's paying dividends now. And more people are like, they're even losing interest. They're losing interest in things that they loved for a really long time that gave them joy. They're like, suddenly I don't have joy with this anymore. Like, it doesn't bring me any joy at all. My husband was a runner. It still is a runner, but he ran for like 25 years, longer, since college. Yeah, like 26 years, 27 years. And he hates it now. And it was his thing.
Yeah.
And this is the energy where it's like, okay, well, something's shifting because you used to love this so much. Things are changing. People and their work, if it's not fueling them here, they don't care about the money.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. Like, that's a whole different mentality of the number one thing. I think it was the millennials. It was impact. What is the impact that my job is bringing not only to myself, but to the world? And that has become way more important than the money that they're making.
Yeah.
And that is a complete switch from what the boomer generation had experienced.
Absolutely. I agree with that so much. And I'm so sorry I have to ask a follow-up question because I can't believe I didn't actually put this in our initial questions, but like we're talking a lot about like the future and what can happen. And we've had conversations and I would just love to know what is the future that you see for the world like once we get past and like do you have a sense of timing for us in this particular timeline of when we get to this wonderful age of
So,
Aquarius?
okay, the thing about the energy right now is it's so in flux right now that it's really hard to make, and I've been finding this with other psychics and mediums, that it's really hard to make any type of predictions perfectly. It's more of, I get more of a feeling of how it's going to be rather than exact. Now, I will tell you this. The rest of this decade and up until 2032 is going to be quite tumultuous.
Oh, that's later than you said to me originally.
Well, not exactly, because things are going to happen in 2026, 2027. Very interesting things are going to happen with regards to our off-planet friends. We'll just call them
Oh,
that.
yes. Here
Okay.
we go.
Sorry, I'm like, and yes, I have been called back into the conversation. Not that I'm not here. I don't want to stop what you're about to say, but I also want to go there to
Okay.
our off-planet friends. I don't think we talked that much about this last time, and I want to know
We didn't talk about it at all because it crosses a barrier for a lot
how
of
does
people.
it all work together? Because, like, okay, so again, just to reiterate, like, I feel like I have my moments where I'm skeptical, but I'm very open to all of it. And Rachel is probably so freaking sick of me talking about aliens at this
I'm
point.
not. I'm so here for all of it. Let's
Thank
go.
God. I guess I don't think too deeply about it, but if I am thinking about it, I am definitely in the camp of how, like, there's no way that in all this giant universe that we're in, this tiny little speck of a little dot in this universe, that we are the only planet that has intelligent life on it. So I definitely feel like, yes, we have aliens. They're out there. I don't know if either of you remember, but in like March or April 2020, the government 100% said, by the way, aliens exist. And
Oh
then we
yes, no,
all didn't pay
I
any
watched
attention
all
because
of
we
it.
were traumatized by the pandemic. So, like, sorry, just
Did
feel
you
free to
watch that
talk to me, but
Netflix?
I want to talk about aliens.
Did you watch that Netflix UFOs Declassified? Did you watch that?
No, but
Oh
you
my
know.
gosh. Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
I'm so sorry 'cause I feel like I definitely cut off your train of thought, but like, where can we go from here?
Okay,
Where do
so
you
okay,
go?
so here's what I'll just say. There is going to be a lot of tumult in the rest of this decade because, again, growing pains and birthing pains are very painful. They're not pleasant. Again, nothing changes unless things get really bad and people finally say, no, 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 we can't do this. And there's going to be a lot of that. There will be consciousness is rising. Okay. And so you can't deny that. The way energy works is it's always going to lift people up. And if you're there, you can't be pulled down because, again, you can't connect at that level. So the idea is everybody is going to come eventually upward into this, but some people are going to be there first, and then people are going to start to follow. Now, there is definitely, I mean, there's going to be some crazy global stuff going on, without a doubt. Like it has to
I mean,
happen.
it's already happening. I mean, let's be real. Like,
Now,
there's
we don't
already
have to worry. I will say this, we don't have to worry about a World War III. Okay.
Okay, that's
So
reassuring because I mean, definitely a worry for me. Although I'm like,
there might
Civil
be
War? I don't know.
there might be little wars, but we could already be in a World War III starting in the Middle East if we were picking sides, quite honestly. And in Ukraine and Russia, we could already be there.
and
And
in
we're
in
not.
Pakistan. I mean, like
And
you're
Pakistan,
poisoned.
exactly. We could already be there, but we're not doing that, right? We haven't yet, and nobody wants to do that. There are some governmental people that are crazy hungry for power, but the people don't want any of that. Nobody wants any of what is happening right now. Nobody wants it. And so the idea of having a World War III, it's not going to come to fruition. We also do have, and that goes as well with using any kind of nuclear warheads or anything like that. That is also not going to happen. The Earth is too valuable in the universe as a school of learning for souls that there are safeguards put up to prevent that type of thing from ever happening again. And so this comes to our friendly friends, our off-planet friends that have been here. They actually are already here. They've been here for a very long time. They're very good at being stealthy. And they're in neighboring orbits. They're watching. They've been watching. They've actually, if I don't know if you've ever seen, but there has been areas where known nuclear facilities have been stored and kept, and that these UFOs have buzzed them to let everybody know we know what's here and we're watching you. And so that's not going to happen. Do you remember when it was the oil spill, the massive one off when there was the explosion on the oil rig way
Yeah.
out in the ocean?
Yeah, it was like Exxon or
Exxon.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where did all of that oil go?
I don't know, the same
One
word.
day it kind of just disappeared.
I don't know where the murder hornets went either.
Yes, because timeline shifts. And I actually
It's
wanted
not just a timeline shift though. It was
also
actually help.
aliens.
It
But
was help.
and also, it may be below because what I also want to just throw out there for a little seasoning to this conversation was the idea. And again, I'm curious what both of you think about this. Is I've definitely heard people talk about how octopuses, octopi are aliens because they're so freaking smart. And people are like, these are literally aliens that like live in our ocean.
Whoa.
So maybe the oil that spilled, there was something like maybe there's
Ooh.
oil palace, like in the depths that all of these octopi are like doing something
Well,
with.
they do squirt black ink.
This is literally how bad conspiracy theories are.
Well, I don't know about that. That I
We
don't
should
think
really stop eating them.
I'm gonna say no to that one. But that, you know what? If it feels right to you, enjoy it. Love it.
Just again throwing it out there, but the other thing that kind of was coming to mind as we were chatting is again chronically online here. But I did see a video recently. If I can dig it up, I'll try to link it in the show notes for this. But it was basically like a parody where it was two people dressed as aliens in like human clothing making fun of humans. And so they're like, got like full like alien heads and like hands, like green skin, whatever. And they're like, oh no, my tummy hurts. I can't go to the hospital because I have no money and no health insurance. And just, like
Oh,
terrible stuff like that. And then in the comments, someone was like, but what if this is actually aliens? This is actually what they do and they make
isn't
fun
that
of us,
like cultural appropriation from aliens?
right?
And Sydney, I so appreciate you because I can tell you're like dabbling into this and you're like, I don't know even know who's listening to this right now. And I know how wild all of this sounds. And I will just say for anyone who is still listening and has not turned this off, one of the things that I just so appreciate about you, Cindy, is that you are humble about this, right? You were like, I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but this is my truth. And it doesn't ultimately, the reason why I wanted to have you on is because I think personally, and I think Felicia also feels this way, is it is really important to have these conversations about what is possible in the world because we do live in this wild time where it feels like there aren't any possibilities, right?
Yeah.
So it is nice to lean into something where that feels hopeful, which I think is what you offer.
I feel like we are living in a time where absolutely anything is possible. I'm the shit that, sorry, we don't swear on this one.
No, we
Sorry.
can swear on this
Okay.
podcast.
100%.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
shit that is going on in our government has never happened before. I mean, this is a possibility, right? That we never expected. So who's to say other possibilities? Anything goes
That's
now.
true.
That's
Like, let's
exactly it, right? It's like, well, if all these terrible things that however many years ago, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, whatever, people were like, oh, that's like 0.00001% chance of happening. And now it's all happening. Why can't we have good possibilities happen?
Yes.
exactly.
That's
Our
exactly what we want
default,
to tap
yeah.
into. Yeah.
Our default is always negative.
Yeah.
It's always
Because we're
negative. We
humans. It's
always
the
are.
negativity bias that we trend to as human beings. Like we always focus on
It's
that.
always worst case scenario.
Mhm.
It's never best case scenario. Like our default is worst case scenario. And this is why we are living the way we are living because we
Yep.
expect the worst to happen. So
Yeah.
why are we surprised when it does? When that's
Yeah.
what we're always
Well,
expecting.
and exactly that. It's like about our mental framing. Like I talk about this with my therapist all the time because like I'm definitely not like a highly anxious person, but I have a lot of anxiety around certain things. And I definitely find or have found in the past comfort in thinking through worst case scenarios because in my mind, I'm like, if I can think about it, then I will prep for it. And then if and when it happens, I'm ready to go. Like, let's do it. Her thing is, and this is what we spent a long time working on together and why I still work with her is around let's flip it. What if the best thing can happen? What if the most amazing thing can happen? Why do we have to, going back to your point, live in this place of fear and limitation instead of this
Yeah.
place of expansiveness? And it sounds like whether you want to talk about it from the lens of like the angels or the aliens or the whatever, or therapy or
Goals,
growth mindset or magical thinking, whatever label you want to give to it, it is
manifesting.
fundamental brain shift in terms of how are we approaching the world. And I think that's exactly like what all of the things that you're talking about, Cindy, is really sort of like tapping into and what you're giving voice to here. And I think that's why like Rachel and I are so open to it because it's like, okay, well, you know what? Like the traditional stuff that we were working in terms of how we're boxing ourselves and naming the work that we do, it's gotten us to a certain place, but we're kind of hitting the end of the line here. So what else is out there? How else can we reframe what we're doing and how we're thinking about this?
Well, and that comes back to again, like, don't limit your potentials, like,
Yeah.
and don't create potentials.
Yeah.
Like, and everything exists, every possibility exists. If you can think it, it exists.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And it's in the ethers, right? And the way we draw it to us is through our vibration. Everything is vibration.
Yeah.
The universe works not with words, but with vibration.
Yeah.
And certain thoughts will give your body a vibration and you'll give off this vibration. And then the universe is like, oh, I see that vibration. They must want that. So here, have it. And so that's how the law of attraction works, right? So if we're always thinking worst case scenario, we're living in that energy, we're giving that energy off. The universe is like, gotcha, sending it your way. And then there you've manifested it. It is how you expected it. But if we
Oh,
don't even create the potential for that, this is what I mean when I say that in the future, fear won't even be a potential. People will be like, wow, I can't believe anybody ever thought that way or that all these terrible things ever happened because it's not even going to exist. Again, we're not going to there's going to be no container, no space held for these low vibrations. We are also on the earth and we are living in density, right? We chose to come here to experience. Every single one of us is a spiritual being. We're all spiritual. Every single thing we see is spiritual. It's just in density, right?
Mm.
And so if you can think that anything that you can imagine we can do as spirits, we actually can do as humans. We just have to realize that the vibration is what is preventing us from being able to do these things. And this is what I mean when I say we're lifting, we're rising. We're actually going to become lighter. We're going to be able to hold more light in our bodies. We're not going to need to eat as much food. Everything is going to be very different because we are rising, and the energy is going to be reciprocated.
Yeah, and I just wanna add on to that and sort of circle back onto the point of fear that you talked about, because this is, like, really resonating for me, everything that you're talking about, and I'm thinking about how, like, right, manifest when we are afraid, we are manifesting this reality that is fear-based, and we are I feel like it's like building that monster. Felicia actually has this really cool activity that she does in her workshops around, like, building these monsters, and it's like you're building this fear monster, right? And you're creating it. And something I was listening to this really great podcast, Pivot, which is very well known. It's Kara Swisher. And she had a guest co host, Rachel Maddow. And what Rachel Maddow was saying was that Trump is not surprising, right? Like he's textbook authoritarian. Like what he is doing is like it has been done before. This is not surprising at all. She said what is important to focus on is the people's response to what is happening.
Exactly.
And she's like, how are corporate heads responding? How are politicians responding? But also, how is the everyday person responding? And she said, what has been giving her the most hope is seeing how people are rising up against that, pushing back against that fear. And it's like people that you wouldn't expect. They were talking about the one person that, like, the lady in the parking lot in the yoga pants who was going out and like screaming against ICE, right? Like that's just like not something that, because there's like a bougie white suburban lady, right? But like giving it to the ICE agents, right? Like, so that energy of like that woman very easily could have been afraid and been like, well, I don't want to say anything or do anything because what if something happens to me? And she stood up, and you were seeing all of these videos of all these people doing it. So I just want to like sort of emphasize that piece around fear, and you're creating that. I think the more we do that, the more hope that we have for this new world.
Well, and there's strength in numbers, right? And that is what is starting to happen. And that is again the awakening is going in tandem with that. More and more people are awakening to this idea of we create our lives. We're not victims of our lives. We're creating our lives. And I'm tired of living in this victimhood mentality, and I actually want to live, I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive. And it's contagious. And so the more people that kind of jump on that whole idea, the more you can actually see how silly everything is. Like just how silly everything, the things that we put all of our energy into, it's just ridiculous. Like the systems that we've been agreeing to are so dumb. I'm
Yes.
sorry, but the education system is idiotic.
Well,
Completely idiotic. And we've been buying into it for so long. The healthcare system, come on.
yeah. And people
Insurance systems. Think about insurance. So the idea is we want to get back to the essence, right? So the divine essence of all of these things. The first insurance company was basically a small town that is like, okay, we're all going to put in a couple dollars. So if anybody's crops go bad or if anybody's house burns down, they can rebuild it. That's a great thing. That's a community thing. It got monetized and weaponized. And now it doesn't benefit anybody except for the stakeholders. And that's it. Like, and that's the same thing for healthcare. That's the same thing for education. That is the same thing for there's always who is making the most money. That is where it's distorted. That is what has happened. Everything now is about money and power, and it's not about the human connection or the growth of the human at all. And this is what is starting to be realized because unfortunately, more and more people, the system is breaking down for them, right? It's completely breaking down for them. And they're like, I don't know what to do now because everything that I've ever done isn't working anymore. We have to try something different. And more people are starting to feel that way. I mean, you can look at, again, I'm going back to the boomer generation where everything was like factories and it was all just big groups of people, but they weren't doing their own thing. Like, think about the entrepreneurship that is now everywhere. I mean, it is a completely different world. People are like, I can't work in that world anymore, so I'm going to create my own. And
Well,
that's
it's interesting you bring up this sort of generational thing too, because I mean, it's another topic Rachel and I talk a lot about, and there's always discourse around generational divides and differences and everything, and every new generation comes up and has the same kind of thing. But I was thinking just now as you were talking, like with the boomers, there were all of these social systems in place. And I think part of what we're dealing with right now is the fact that they broke it. Right. And so they were like, oh, this is fine, or this is not good, or we don't want this, and we're going to break it apart. And so now a lot of this conflict and upheaval that we're seeing right now is because a lot of these systems, and not saying they're perfect, but they were working fairly well for a lot of people. Now we are seeing people who can't, like, have to work 3 jobs to scrape by, who don't have a guarantee of sending their kids to a good school, who will
Or
never be able to
affording a
buy a
home.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think it's about also, like, thinking through this upheaval. Like, it's not new. We've been dealing with this upheaval for a long time. And to your point, like, how do we sort of channel this wave that is happening into a place of abundance and possibility and goodness, and not just into further destruction in terms of just everything falling apart?
well, everything does need to fall apart, unfortunately.
Well, so that's what I want to actually get back to, because you mentioned you're like, okay, 26 and 2027 are going to be real wild. So, okay, I'm strapped in.
Well,
Don't know for what.
2026 and 2027, that is going to be when we are going to 100% realize we are not the only species in the universe.
Okay, so here for it.
That
Like, I've
that
Let's
been
go.
ready.
it actually
Let's
it's
go.
moving up faster too. It's like it was 2027 and now it's like end of 2026 and now it's like it might even be sooner than that. Like it's
Ooh,
everything's kind of moving up a little bit.
okay.
It's going to be 2028 is going to be a massive year with regards to, how do I want to put this? I don't want to say that it's going to be war, but this is when the gloves come off. Gloves are coming off.
They're
Which
not on
gloves?
already?
I know, I'm like, because it feels like there's a lot of gloves
How
that
many
are
layers of gloves are people wearing? Because, like, I feel like they're already off.
off.
It's just there's going to be, again, they don't give me exact, whenever I tune in about this, it's simply the big shift. The big shift, like almost like the splitting,
Yeah.
2028 to 3032. In 3032, that's
Or
when it
2032
30?
or
Yeah.
20, sorry, 20.
I'm like, I mean, we'll go there with
No,
you. That's quite a ways from now.
I was thinking 2030, 2032. So,
Okay.
okay, 2028, there's going to be people, it's going to be shocking to some degree, but that's also when it's finally like we're done. There's no negotiating anymore. This is not happening. Is 2028.
Okay.
which happens to be the next presidential election. So that's
If
fun
if
I'm
if
sure
we
there's no coincidence.
if we
There's
have
no
one.
if
no
we have one. Yeah.
one. Oh God.
Well,
Yeah, right.
there's going to be a lot of breaking down of systems, right? And so you can't really have a government, a functioning government that you can elect a leader of if the systems aren't working, right? There's going to be a lot of grassroots. Like this is already starting. So the grassroots thing is really going to be starting because the gap between the haves and the have-nots, it's not going to get better. It's going to get
Yeah.
wider.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I feel like we need that. Like, and to the point of everything we've been talking about so
Yes.
far is like that's needed. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that did bring up something else I wanted to bring up earlier, which is like this whole idea with, okay, systems are failing us. We're going to see more of this split between people who are doing just fine and profiting and people who are really struggling. And I've seen this in my own community where I've started to see more and more mutual aid groups pop up
Yeah.
and
Totally.
beyond just like your standard like mutual aid function, which is really important and I think very needed in a lot of ways. I'm seeing a lot more people coming together wanting to figure out what can they do
Yeah.
given who they are, where they're at, what they have available to them. And I'm seeing more of that. And I talk about this a lot with my husband. We're like, we need leaders because I feel like that's what we're missing right now is we don't have clear leadership. And I'm just curious if that's come up at all in sort of when you've been talking and thinking about this.
Okay, so everything that you've said, this is the start of it. So the way that we do commerce right now, if you think about it, the United States of America is completely freaking broke. Broke. If everybody called in everything, there'd be nothing, right? And it's not by chance that all of these, European leaders came with Zelensky, and it's
Yep.
like that's kind of scary because you can really see sides, right?
Yeah.
And if all of these European countries that we have all of these agreements with and trade with and commerce with are like, yeah, you know what? We're out on America.
And by the way, also, we're like, "Oh, we're so safe, isolationist," but you know what? Canada and Mexico aren't friends of ours anymore
Oh
either.
no,
So
Canada has already gone over to Europe. They're
yeah,
doing all their trade
and
with Europe
Mexico
now.
too,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Mexico.
And so this is where we're at right now, right? And so commerce is going to change dramatically. And
Mhm.
it's slowly, like, people are starting to feel it now, absolutely. But that's just going to get more intense because it's forcing us to create community, just like you were
Yeah.
saying, Felicia. And these communities, it's going to go, believe it or not, it's going to go to the bartering system. We are going to be growing our own
Oh,
food.
I believe it. Like I'm
Oh, yeah.
like prep
100%.
mode.
There will be secessions of states. That is definitely, without a doubt, going to happen.
Yeah, I'm like,
California!
great. Also here for it.
People's
States are going to be
Republic.
New
leaving
England, California, let's get out of this mess.
like that.
Leave
It's
everyone
it's
else to their own
quite
devices.
inevitable, to be honest. I again, there's no timeline for all of that. Really, they're not giving me a timeline. They kind of just are like these are. But again, we do have free choice, we free will, and so we can choose differently. Like again, there's so many potentials out there that it can go so many different, and the energy is so in flux right now. There are so many different ways that it can go. But the main thing that is always consistent is community. Communities are coming back together. The small communities are going to just, that's going to be our way of commerce. That is what is going to happen. So the people that are stuck in their private equity with all their stuff, they're going to have their own way of doing things, and it's going to slowly dry up.
I'm into it.
Yeah, it's going to dry up, and they're going to try everything they can to suppress and take all they can from the people who already have nothing. They're going to continue to do that to maintain their lifestyle, but it's not going to work. And everybody else is going to actually have a very harmonious way of living with each other. It's like when I was kind of tuning in about this, I'm almost seeing like it's not a black market, but like a marketplace.
Well,
Like
no, I
that's
mean,
how,
it
The
definitely
cover
like
market.
yeah, it's I don't know. I don't think you are, Rachel, but I don't know if you're at all into like fish or jam band scene,
Not
Cindy.
my
So my husband's really into fish and Grateful Dead and all that stuff, but there's like a whole community, communal market and like sort of, I guess, for lack of a better word, commerce culture that springs up around these spaces. And it's exactly that. It's like there's bartering, there's trade, there's people pitching in and making food and giving it away. And I just think of that. And this is such a different side note, but I'll just drop it in really quickly. If either of you have ever watched Station 11, yes, no, maybe Rachel has.
yes,
Cindy, if you haven't,
recommend.
yeah, if you are if you need a new TV watch, or for our listeners, like it is such a great show, first of all. But secondly, it's an interesting take on the whole like post-apocalyptic angle because you have on the one hand you're like, oh my god, everything is horrible and people are monsters and they're just raping and killing and everyone's out for themselves because everything has collapsed and society doesn't exist anymore. And on the other hand, you have, okay, post-apocalypse, like the pandemic happened, everything's horrible and like things collapse, but we're still going to focus on like family and art and music and beauty and like helping each other, even though, yes, there are still bad people out there and everything doesn't always go well, but it's like a different way of looking and being. And I fully believe that like if we get to this point, my hope is that we'll have enough people who can like create this or believe in this alternative aspect. So it's not just all of us like running around here with like guns trying to shoot people who are trying to kill us. Like,
Not everything has to be The Walking Dead.
yes,
No.
why not? But really,
Well, here's the
like that
thing.
not
It's
the
like
case.
it's only the 1% that has, think about just the numbers of people. The 1%ers, those are the ones that are running the world right now.
Yep.
Like that's honestly, like, how is that even possible? Like, if you think about it, and it's because we have all been lulled by fear
Yeah.
into this false matrix of a world that's not even true. Like we believe we're victims, we react like victims, and all just stomping our feet and getting mad isn't going to do anything. We actually need to unite
We should
in this
reclaim our
way.
power, right? Because like that's partially why we're here is because like we've given away that power. And you see this at government levels and like individual levels around the fear conversation that we've talked about. But like we need to reclaim that in a certain sense, I
Well,
think.
it's even in our own relationships we give away our power. I mean, everything is a fractal of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can have like a woman that maybe gives her power away within her family
Hmm.
that is representative of her community, which is representative of the government, which is it just gets bigger and bigger. And that's everything is a fractal. It's a microcosm of a macrocosm.
Yeah.
Everything is that way. It's a matter now of going inward. So that's the key to everything is all of your power, none of it's outside of us. Like we're using the outside of us to decide how we should feel. We are, instead of actually creating our outside, well, which we are too, like we're creating our outside by how we feel on the inside,
Hmm.
right? We're like, okay, I'm unworthy. I'm terrible at this. I'm awful at that. I don't have any friends. I can't hold a job. Like you feel that way. And so you create that as
Hmm.
your, and then you look for evidence.
Hmm.
You look for evidence and be like, see, this always
Yep.
happens to me.
Like a
See?
self-fulfilling
Yes,
prophecy.
completely.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
so if
Yeah.
we can, the practice that everybody needs to do is honestly 5 to 10 minutes just to start, is go and sit in some stillness and just kind of just listen to your breath. Just follow your breath. So many people have such a hard time being still. Like it's so hard because everything moves so fast now. I mean, you look at reels, you look at everything is just available. It's boom, all this stimulation constantly. So we don't take enough time to just be still and to just breathe and just kind of be. Now, there's a lot of people that say, well, I pray all the time. Praying is, again, you're not being still. You're active. You're asking for something, right?
Yeah.
The meditation, the idea of meditation or stillness like that is being in receipt,
Yeah.
right? So slowing everything down so that you can actually receive the information that is within you and trying to tell you something. But we've been indoctrinated to believe that everything is outside of us. So that noise, that's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. And if we do listen to a voice inside of it, it's the one that's telling us we're shitty
Yep.
most of the time, instead of the deeper one that is your true self, that is your soul speaking to you. If we can
Yeah.
take that time and go to the earth, I'm not kidding. The best thing you could do is sit in stillness on grass
Yeah.
and just invite in that healing energy of Gaia. Just
Yeah.
honestly, whenever I have those crazy moments where it's like, I'm like, I have to go outside. And I go outside and I will just lay on the ground and just breathe and be like, just take it, Gaia, take it from me. And she does.
Yeah.
She actually does. I'm like, please just take this low vibration that is going around and around and transmute it, make it into a butterfly, turn it into a
Yeah.
leaf or a piece of grass, make it
Yeah.
something else, and just let me feel this beautiful healing energy that the earth has. The ocean, the lake, the grass, the mountain air, that is where you can just kind of go and breathe. And honestly, right now, it is so powerful. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know the last time you've done anything like that, but the energy of the earth right now is freaking nuts. It's
Yeah.
so powerful. Like, you can go out there and just, you have to ask for it though, right? You have to ask for it to leave you, the low vibration, and you ask for the high vibration to come in, and you can
Right.
feel the switch happen. You
Yeah.
really, really can. It's
Yeah.
amazing right now how it changes my mood instantly.
Yeah. I agree.
Instantly.
I agree with you. I was given a challenge recently to meditate for 30 minutes for 10 days. So I'm on day like 8 right now. And it actually is annoyingly transformative. And I will just say, like, just to honor the people who, like, do not have access to nature, which is, like, so hard to even believe. I know that there's parks that people can access, but even sometimes that can be hard. I think just even if you can, like, I think just breathing is so you're so right, Cindy. Just, like, taking some deep breaths and, like, closing your eyes and just doing the thing that is so scary for so many of us is to actually, like, be alone with our own thoughts
Mhm.
because it's I know I certainly have that, and so I definitely appreciate all that advice, and that was one of the questions that we had for you, so thank you for answering that. And, like, wow, of course, another hour, boom,
Oh
gone.
my
Oh,
gosh, that went
I
very quickly.
I know. So, but any other final thoughts before we do go?
Well, I know that we talked, and I'm saying all this terrible stuff and how life is going to do. Again, I want to go back to what I said on the last one about how the best thing you can do for yourself and for everybody is just to find some joy.
Yes.
Just find some joy. Lift yourself up. No matter what it is, take a moment and listen to your favorite song and dance around the house. Anything, the simplest thing that gives you joy, do that as much as you can because that is way more beneficial to accomplishing anything than nose to the grindstone. Believe it or not. You can be nose to the grindstone doing all this work, but if it's not bringing you any joy, it's not moving the needle at all. Whereas if you can just stop what you're doing and do something that brings you some joy, everything changes and suddenly your energy is higher and suddenly you're like manifesting things in a positive way, right? So you're calling into you now all of these things that can help you do that work instead of putting your nose to the grindstone. Suddenly
Yeah.
things you'll it's I'm not kidding. If in the middle of something you're like, "You know what? I just got to stop because I'm feeling very frustrated in my work. I'm feeling very frustrated in the situation. I'm going to go and I'm going to leave and I'm going to lift my spirits," right? That's what lift outside.
Mhm.
Which is the same thing as saying I'm going to raise my vibration. If you go and you do that, suddenly the universe is like, "Oh, well this is different. I'm not going to throw the same crap at her that I've been throwing at her. Like, I'm going to give her something fun that matches where she is right now." And suddenly, all those terrible things that you had to do, they somehow manage to take care of themselves or they disappear completely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding. You can
Well,
cut your work day, the work that you actually do in a work day, by at least half if you are actually joyful because things take care of themselves somehow. The universe suddenly is on your side and you're not working against it anymore. You're actually in the flow. That's what the
yeah.
flow is, right?
Yeah.
And things just kind of happen where it's like someone you needed to make an appointment with or you had to go and see is canceled for whatever reason. And you're like, thank God, because I didn't have time for that. Like all of these things kind of just start to happen where when you're in the flow, you're not working so hard. It kind
Yep.
of just takes care of itself.
Yep.
And you do that only when you are in alignment with high vibration, with joy.
And I wanna just add to that because it's such an important point and I think sometimes we ladies can be a little bit like, "Oh, but, we're not helping other people." And one thing I know that you've said to me before is when we are experiencing joy, we are collectively bringing up the vibration for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that can be really like, that's just an important lesson when we feel like, "Oh, we're being selfish because we're experiencing joy when there's so much pain
Yeah.
out there." So I just wanted to double down on that.
That's the best thing that you can do to not feel guilty because guilt again is low vibration, right? To feel guilt because you are having a good experience when there are so many people having a bad experience doesn't help anybody
Yeah.
because it
That's
just lowers
exactly.
the vibration. It
Yeah.
lowers the
And
vibration. And it's a matter of just joy is contagious, man. We've all felt it. You're around someone that's joyful, you suddenly feel a little more joyful.
Well, that's what I was going to say is I think in addition to helping yourself, it actually is helpful for other people to a certain degree because you're modeling it. And when other people see people who just are, again, like fill in the blank word, right? Like joyful, tuned in, happy, appreciative, whatever it is that, however you're manifesting that, it is contagious. And it is something where like, I thought about this for like, I love it when I like go out and if I like take care with my outfit or whatever and someone notices and they tell me, like it makes my day so great and I feel so good about myself. And I always think to myself, you can also do this for other people.
Yes.
You don't just have to wait for someone to tell you and acknowledge you. You can do it for other people. And it's a sort of like a cyclical thing because then it makes you feel better. It makes them feel
Yeah.
it kind of grows and grows and grows. So
It does.
like,
You
we have
telling
to
someone, you telling someone
think
else,
about
giving
it.
them a compliment makes them feel good, which then makes you feel good.
Exactly. And so it's like the power of the individual. How do we
Oh,
honor that? How do we tap into the power of the collective? How do we tap into our higher vibration so that we can get to the 2030s past this horrible conflict and birth it and get out of it, clean ourselves off and get into some good stuff?
Clean ourselves off. Gross. Okay.
well,
Yeah, there's some birthal matter. I don't know. Is that a word? Birthal? Anyway.
It is now.
On that note.
it is now for sure. Yeah, it is important just to remember that we're all feeling this. There's nobody, even if they look like they're riding the high life, everybody has lessons that they're learning. They're just being presented in different ways. We are used to learning our lessons through struggle, but we don't have to. We actually have the option to learn them through joy. And that's not going to happen unless we invite joy in.
Love it.
So again, going inward, that is the key. And to not feel guilty, to feel joy. It's a good thing. It puts it out into the collective, and then someone else is going to pick it up somewhere because it's out there.
Yeah.
It'll fall onto someone else. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cindy. This was unsurprisingly absolutely wonderful.
Well, I enjoyed myself very much as well. I could talk and talk and talk. I still
I know,
feel like
but
we have so
could
much
probably
more we could talk
keep
about.
going.
I mean, honestly.
Like for hours and hours. But you know what I like to think is that we are putting a little bit of joy out there
Yeah.
to our own little slice of the universe, and maybe someone will pick up on it. So thank you for helping us doing that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me back.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, we did it. I'm so excited that we did that. And I would like to do it again.
Yes, here for it.
Yeah, I feel like Cindy needs to be like a recurring guest to keep us posted on.
We gotta get her updates.
Like, what are the shenanigans that the universe has in mind? We need to know. So we hope that you enjoy listening to this as much as we enjoyed this conversation.
And we so enjoyed it. So as always, thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you're still here with us on these side quests that we're taking. But please, no matter what, don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe. It really does make a huge difference in the reach of this podcast and by extension, our work. You can visit us on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And you can sign up for our newsletter at inclusiongeeks.com/newsletter to stay up to date on all things Inclusion Geeks. Stay geeky.
Bye.